Hi, Homeworthy. I'm Louise. I am excited to show you one of my client projects here in the Hudson Valley. Come on in.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi, my name is Louise Copeland. I am an interior designer, and I'm excited to be here today at our client's house in Germantown, New York. It's a historic Gothic Revival home that was built, we think, between 1820 and 1840. When the first time I came to the house to meet with the clients, we were with the architect who helped with the project, Chip Bull from Bull Architects. And the original scope of the project was to add a kitchen to a house that had been renovated and renovated and renovated. And it was sort of just a rabbit warren of rooms that didn't flow very well. It was not at all the original layout of the house on the inside. And the scope sort of went from there. We decided to put the kitchen on the other side of the house to add an addition. We wanted a proper primary suite that the house didn't have at the time. And the real goal for the original part of the house was to bring it back to what we thought was the original layout of the house. One of the most wonderful things about the client is that aesthetics are very important to them, and they understand the value of not just having it function, but having it be closer to the original aesthetic of the house. So that was a really fun partnership to have, because that's not always the case. Welcome to the entry of the house. When we first started the project, there was a wall right here, and so it was just this little dark entryway with the original door that we kept and the original glass, which we repaired. One goal we had in the house was to not have really any exposed sheetrock because it feels too new. So we actually put new sheetrock up on the walls and then painted burlap onto it, glued burlap, and then painted over it. So you can see the walls have just really uneven, kind of rough texture, very imperfect, which is actually what we wanted because we didn't want it to feel too crisp and new. The staircase is original. It is very steep and very narrow. We didn't really think about it when we were moving furniture upstairs. Most of the furniture actually would not fit up the stairs, so we had to take a lot of it apart and put it back together upstairs. So hopefully it stays here for a long time. This was a wall right here. So the original entry of the house would have been here. Actually, it would have been sort of the back door, and it was a window when we started construction. So we put the door back in because this would have been the main pass-through of the house. Out this way is the Hudson River, so it's a really beautiful view. Even though you drive in on this side, this is actually the front of the house that faces the river. The architect was really involved in this part of the house because he's worked on a lot of these Gothic revivals. Chip is so wonderful and had really wanted to open this up to make it feel like the original house would have felt. This is, as you can see, the staircase is right above here. There was nothing we could do about this height. It is quite low, but it sort of adds to the character of the house. This is how it would have been almost 200 years ago, so we left it just like that. One thing that I really like to do most of the time in an entry to the house is keep it pretty light and neutral, because it allows for the spaces that come off of the entry, which is typically the living room and dining room, to have a lot more punch, a lot more depth of color. I think if you walk into a house and the first thing that you see is like very jarring or very bright or saturated color, it's not always as welcoming. It certainly is a statement, but we like to keep it neutral, and there isn't a ton of natural light in this space, so keeping it light was the right direction. We really wanted to stay true to the spirit of the house. We didn't want to make it perfect with the renovation. We kept some of the wonkiness of the house, so the floors still slope a little bit, and The windows maybe aren't exactly lined up, but I think that's really important to keep this character. It feels like an old house. And so we brought in a lot of pieces of furniture that were built around the time the house was built and tried to make it feel a little bit like it'd been collected over time instead of somebody just coming in and plopping all the new furniture into the house. So all the upholstery is new, but has very classic frames, and most of the case goods are antique, and just the textiles are definitely modern, but have a really traditional flair to them. I have to say, I have never worked on an American Gothic house. I immediately bought 10 coffee table books about Gothic architecture. Originally, it was a bit of a challenge to try and strike the right balance for the interiors, but once we sort of figured out the direction we were going, it was really fun, and the clients were so easy and wonderful to work with. So once we got in the groove, it was great. Now I will show you the living room. Welcome to the living room. This is a very large, sort of a primary seating area of the house. And an interesting thing about this room is originally it did not have a fireplace. So we had purchased all of the furniture and we had a completely different layout. Every single thing was just ready to go when the construction was over. And very last minute, the clients decided that they really wanted to have a fireplace to make it a little more warm and cozy. So they put it in, and we had to figure out how to move all of the furniture around to make it work in the space. And I was doubtful that it was gonna work, and somehow everything fit perfectly. So the sofa was supposed to be where the fireplace is. Everything was supposed to be in a different corner of the room, and it really worked out well. It was sort of meant to be. In a big space like this, I think it's nice to, when you can, have the sofa up against a wall so it's not floating into the room. It really makes it so you can use all of the space instead of cutting it into two different spaces. So having a room this size, I think having a seat for 10 people is ideal. So whether it's a sofa or a little stool by the fireplace, or even the upholstered ottoman that doubles as a coffee table, it really allows for my clients to entertain a large number of people, and it keeps it really cozy. So you could have a few people over here, or a group over here as well. We used a lot of the Hudson River art in here. This is one of my favorite pieces of the house. Nothing was purchased for a specific place, but again, somehow it just sort of worked out perfectly and everything found the right home for the size and the color. So one big design decision that we made in the house was not to use any recessed lighting. The original owners of the house, of course, would not have had any electrified lighting installed, but we didn't want to have any recessed lights because it just screams new house. So we really stuck to table lamps in here, and actually in the living room we decided not to have any overhead light. It's a very cozy room, and we have a lot of lamp light. We have the sconces over the fireplace, picture lights on this wall, but it just felt like a place that if you're in here during the day, it gets beautiful light from the east in the morning and west in the evening, and then if you're in here after dark, you really kind of want it to feel moody and cozy. So we sort of struck a perfect balance with lots of lamps and kept it, a nice place to be in the evening around the fire. In a space this big, I like to have one large rug covering the space, but there are multiple seating areas. So we decided to have these beautiful vintage rugs that sort of divide the space. So you have your seating area here and your seating area here that are really contained within these beautiful vintage rugs. And we didn't have any wild patterns in here. We wanted to keep it pretty calm and serene. So we instead really mixed up the textures. So we have big chunky bouclés, and we have silk, and we have leather and linen, and just try to keep it really rich and have a lot of depth in different texture. When we had to reconfigure the space once the fireplace was added, We were trying to find the perfect home for each little table and trunk. And so one thing I like to do in a corner is have a large round side table, because it gives you a nice place to pile books and have a lamp and have a sofa on one side and a chair sort of tucked in next to it. I'm also a big fan, especially in an old house, of having mismatched tables. We have a rectangular table here and a round table here, and as long as they're similar in height and your lamps aren't completely off kilter in height, I think it works really well. These turned walnut table lamps that are gigantic were actually meant for the primary bedroom, and we had them up there during the installation, and they were towering over the bed. So we had to find a different place for them. And I think that's the fun of an installation, is things are not always in the exact place that you plan them when you're looking at a floor plan on paper. But again, we found the perfect home for them. I think they're really an anchoring piece in the room because of their size and their color. One of my favorite pieces in the room is this Italian chair from, I think, 1750. So it's older than the house, and it was in pretty rough shape, and it's still pretty beat up, but you would expect it to be, it's very old. And we reupholstered it in this rose tarlo fabric that is very faded on purpose. So it really fits the age of the chair well. One of my favorite rooms in the house is the office. It was the kitchen. So that is where we started, was we were going to just renovate that space to be a better kitchen. And then once we moved the kitchen, that became just an open space, and it's sort of a surprise as you're going down the hall and think you're just going into the sunroom, and then you look left and it's just this beautiful blue, and it gets really nice light and is a really nice space for the clients to spend some time when they have work to do. All right, so we're coming off of the living room now towards the home office, but I wanted to talk about a few things in here too. This is the original end of the house. So when we started the project, this was already here, but this whole space was the kitchen. And I believe that the sink was right under this window. So it looks quite a bit different now. One thing I love about this is the ceiling drops from the living room. So we sort of embraced the lower ceiling and just painted it black and have these really beautiful Hector Finch lights that have perforation on the side. So at night, it just casts this really beautiful light. And it's a kind of a moody little space going into the office, which is this way. This is the home office. This was the original kitchen, and it's now just a cozy space for our clients to get some work done when they're here. This is an antique desk that we purchased and had it completely refurbished by Revitaleast, where they detail it and change the leather and really bring it back to its original beauty. I get more questions about this space than any other space in the house. Everyone wants to know the paint color, and it really is so soothing and really strikes a nice balance of blue and gray and is calming. So it's a great place to get work done. I was lucky that my client had so many beautiful books and vases and collections that sometimes for clients I have to buy things to fill the shelves, but I did not have to buy a single thing. So they have a lot of old family collectibles, and it made it really easy to set it up. No, well, we wanted to have a space that our clients could relax. So it wasn't just a sit at the desk and get a lot of work done. You could sit in here and read or relax. There really almost wasn't space for a chair, but we wanted to squeeze one in because we knew it would get a lot of use. And we wanted to have sconces around the room. I love these sconces from Urban Electric because they fit perfectly on a bookshelf style. And the light here is actually mid-century, so it's really not at all the style of the house, but the ceilings are relatively low and we liked the shape of it. It's just a happy space. Before we leave the office, I wanted to show you this little feature of the room. The clients have 3 boys, and so when they're here working, it can be a little rowdy. So we have these pocket doors we can close to close everyone out. I don't think that the goal needs to be perfection. I think in certain areas of the house that are really functional, that, like a kitchen or a bathroom, you want it to feel really buttoned up. In those spaces, I think it's all about the materials and having them feel authentic to the age of the house as much as you can. But I think that with the interiors, and paint colors and all of the textiles and general aesthetic, it's great not to have everything be exactly perfectly matched, because you would assume that a very old house has been kind of collected over time instead of just designed all at once. So, maybe making the paint color one off from where you think it should be actually has a really, really nice effect. So this is the family room and sunroom of the house. This was actually one of the previous renovations. So the space existed, but it looked quite different. It had this really dated, like large scale tile. It actually had a fountain in the corner. So we took all of that out and just freshened it up a little bit. And the interiors of the space, they feel a little bit different than the rest of the house because it is the family room. This is where the family gathers to watch TV and play games. And so it feels a little bit more casual and maybe a little bit newer. But this really amazing ottoman actually, I believe, was from the Czech Republic. It was a gymnastics training piece, a pommel horse. So it happened to be the perfect size. It's really beat up. It has the original leather. We cleaned it, but it's pretty stained, but it has a lot of character. In the corner here, we have a games table, and the chairs belong to the client's family, and we weren't really sure what to do with them because they're really heavy and kind of dark. And so we decided to just lighten them up with some fresh upholstery that probably would never have actually looked like this, but they really serve a special purpose in here because the family gathers to do puzzles and games. And this table is from Dorman Design in New Orleans. It's a beautiful table. It's one of my favorites. The base is very unique and the finishes are really perfect. And this light finish works really well in this room that gets sunlight all day long. So it's a really bright and airy and happy place. I think that having a casual elegance is really what gives a house its spirit and its soul. These clients have become really good friends, and just seeing how they use the space and how it's really casual and it's loud and there are kids running around and dogs, and it feels very refined, but it feels very lived in. We tried to have the lived in feeling be part of the installation. It never felt too perfect or too precious to really live in, and I think that's important. I think when we started the project, you could really tell, even though the house had been renovated many times and wasn't what the client was looking for as an end result, you could really tell that the owners of the home, the previous owners, had really loved the house. And for how old the home is, I think it's only had 3 owners or something wild. So the people who have lived here really created a space that was great for them, that functioned well for them, and you could really tell that it had been loved over time. So we wanted to carry on that legacy, and I think we did. It was one of the easiest projects in a way because it was fun and we had a great team and just everything sort of fell into place. The client spent the entire time leading up to the installation for years collecting art from the Hudson River School. So a lot of the paintings are products of the area and of the time, and it really adds to the character of the house, makes it feel very authentic. This is the dining room of the home. This was actually all the first pieces of furniture that we purchased were for the dining room. This table I feel like it found us. It is perfect for the space. It was built the same year, the same area of time that the house was built. So it shows its age, but it has a lot of character and it's big for large family gatherings. The chairs, we kept the original leather on. It was in okay shape, but it really, I think, is nice. It keeps with like the spirit and the age of the house. And this is actually one of the only places that we really had to dedicate this space for this piece. This has been in the client's family for a long time, and we were actually supposed to have another opening here out into the hallway to match the one down here, but we had nowhere to put this painting, so we had to create a wall. So the doorway was already framed out, and then we closed it up so we could showcase this really special piece. So the drapery really led the color in the room. It is this beautiful fabric from Alice Sargent. I love her textiles, and I had just been introduced to them when we were working on the house. And so we started with this green color. So we didn't have just blank sheetrock on the walls. We decided to do a lime wash finish from Portola Paints. And watching the artisans do it was really amazing because you can't let it dry. Can't, do a coat and let a space dry. So they were going up and down ladders and handing each other brushes and got the whole room done, I think, in an hour. It's really amazing, but it does take a lot of talent. So it's probably hard to see in the drapery, but there are some beautiful pale pink specks in the fabric. And so when we found this piece that had the original pink painting on the back, to showcase all of the clients' dishware and silver collections. It's the perfect size for the space and perfect style, has the original glass, and we were really lucky to find it. And then also this chandelier I think I ripped this out of a magazine years and years ago and never had a dining table big enough to use it. And I reached out to the company and they said that they were no longer making it, but we begged them and they made it for us. And so we were so excited to have it. I think it's the perfect piece for the room. We also painted the ceiling pink in here. This is one of my favorite pinks. It's called Old Country from Benjamin Moore, and it's really the perfect pale pink if it's not going in a child's room because it's not overly saturated and it really is very sophisticated. And I love a painted ceiling, so this felt like a perfect place to put Old Country. I worked for a designer in Jackson, Wyoming after college. I sort of always knew I wanted to do something related to interior design, but it took me a bit of time to find the right path. But I worked on the sales side of the business for a while, which I think was really helpful, learning how the textile and furniture businesses work. The ins and outs of that has really helped me once I worked for a designer in New York and then started my own company in San Francisco. Since I've started my company, I've moved from San Francisco to New York and North Carolina. So it's been a fun adventure and had lots of different clients and lots of different styles and projects in different regions of the country. So I think that's really shaped my style and sensibility in the industry. I do something that I tell myself a lot when I sort of get in the weeds with things a bit too much. My old boss and mentor always would say, it's not hearts and lungs, this is supposed to be fun and it's supposed to be beautiful, and don't get bogged down. You're creating a beautiful space for someone. So I try and remind myself that it is serious because it's someone's home and they're the ones who are going to be living in it and enjoying it. And you want to take it seriously, but it's a beautiful profession. So I try and keep it light if I can. So leaving the dining room, this is leaving the original house on this side. So this was the addition that I was involved in helping create for the clients. This is a butler's pantry, so we have a hidden wine fridge and lots of nice storage, upper cabinets for everyday dishware and special glasses, and then hidden behind pocket doors, the more functional pantry, but you want to have the option to close it off when you have company over. And we had an idea of having a tile floor that runs this whole section of the house. So it's also on the other side of the addition to make it seem like this old tiled floor was already here and we kind of put walls on top of it. So it has a lot of character, a really rough texture, and just fits the spirit of the house really well. In the kitchen of the home, we decided to not have a millwork island. So we decided to use a piece of furniture instead. So it didn't look too new and too finished. So this piece I get so many questions about. It was a draper's table from 1840. So again, right around the time of where the home was built, and it really takes a special client to be able to use something like this for an island, because it's just going to get beat up, and it has scratches and it's faded and has stains, but the more you use it, it really has this beautiful patina to it, and it makes the kitchen feel really warm and cozy and not too sterile. And we partnered with Plain English on the cabinetry. This is a company from London. They make the most beautiful cabinetry, and it's the perfect style for an old home because it doesn't look too contemporary. Their hardware has a beautiful finish to it. It looks very aged. Creating this kitchen was so much fun. All of it was the goal of not making it look too new. We didn't have any recessed lights in the plan. We instead used these flush mounts that have sort of a nautical feel to them. And I think it's really fitting given that we're right on the Hudson River. The original homeowner was a sea captain, so bringing in those nautical accents really worked in the house. All of the Plain English cabinetry they have a small collection of really perfect paint colors. This one is called Woolen Flump, I think. It's a very British color, but it sort of reads a little almost purplish beige and really goes nicely with this Arabescato marble that has a lot of green and brown veining in it. It's a really great combination. And the Lacanche deep green range, again, just going for that sort of old world style. It blends together, and the result we think is pretty great. My favorite thing in the kitchen is the larder pantry. So it looks like it's just built-in cabinetry, but it's actually this really special area that hides the coffee maker and all of the spices and baking needs. And so when you're using the coffee maker, it can be open, and then when you're done, you can close it, and this beautiful mess, it's not really very messy, but it can go away. On the other side of the kitchen, we have this really great family living space. This is the family's most used breakfast table, beautiful banquette for the whole family to pile in and spend time in more casual moments. Having a fireplace in the kitchen is just such a luxury. It's really cozy, and I know that the family uses this space in the house more than anything else. We added these little benches in front of the fireplace. I know the kids will sit here and have hot chocolate after a cold day outside. And then these chairs, these really snug, beautiful chairs in the corner that are upholstered in indoor-outdoor fabric, so hopefully they'll hold up for a long time, are great for the couple to have coffee in the morning and just sort of catch up and make plans for the day. So when we were building and designing this space, we knew it was going to get a ton of light. It gets great morning light from the east, a lot of light in the evening from the west. So as much as we want the light to come in, we wanted to have the option to sort of filter it. So we use this really beautiful sheer fabric. And on these windows, it's really functional. You can sort of lower one if it has a ray that's sort of hitting someone right in the eye when they're trying to cook or relax. And then over the sink, we have the same fabric, but these are called a Swedish roll-up. So they really are more for aesthetic. They're kind of hard to put up and down, but they do filter the light. They stay at this halfway point and make it so they match the rest of the windows in the room. When we're in the kitchen, you have a clear line of sight into the dining room. So we wanted to bring some of that really rich green into the space. So we decided to go with the window sashes and the exterior doors. All are a deep green to match the range, to match the dining room, so that we could keep the cabinets nice and light. All right, let's head upstairs and I'll show you some bedrooms. In the primary bedroom, we had a lot of masculine colors, so we wanted to take the opportunity in the guest room to make it a little more feminine. So we started with this really beautiful Sister Parish wallpaper, and added a pink trim and used very floral, feminine Roman shade fabric from Farron Textiles. This beautiful bed from London, from Cornish Bed Company in the Cotswolds. Lots of really special antiques that sort of naturally fit the room. This beautiful chair that has this sort of peachy suede, and a little vanity table for their guests. And then right into this beautiful bathroom that has really amazing green tile that matches the scheme of the room. So the primary suite is all new, part of the addition of the house, and it's a really special room. It has an amazing view of the Hudson, and we wanted to really cozy it up in here, and it didn't really call for any vibrant, heavily patterned wallpaper, but we have this beautiful neutral linen on the walls, and it just gives it such a nice texture and makes it feel really nice and warm. The original bed that we selected for the room, we actually couldn't fit up the stairs. Even taking it apart, it really wasn't going to work in the space, so that's just part of it. Sometimes things don't work out as planned, but it was a happy mistake because we designed this bed that is a 4-poster bed, or I guess a 2-poster bed, sort of similar to the original design, but it's fully upholstered. So the whole thing is covered in this really chunky linen. There are nail heads on the feet, so it has a really nice softness to it, but has the aesthetic that we were originally going for. Clients also, they needed a second workspace other than just the main office of the house. So we found this desk that is a really great size. You could spread out, it's really deep, and it looks out over the backyard into the Hudson in the fall. A really cozy place to work. You can turn the fire on and get the views while you're getting some work done. In creating the space with the architect chipped bowl, we cut out a hallway into the space. So on one side you have the closets, one side you have the bathroom. So there's this long hallway into this space that's at the end of the addition. So it feels very, very private for our clients. They have a full-size sofa in here, so they can really come and relax and escape when they need a moment of quiet or some privacy. We use a lot of textures and try to layer, having linens and wools on the sofa and bouclés. It feels really soft and inviting. I think that home is a place where you want to nest, where you feel like you want to invite people over to show them who you are and how you exist as a family or as a couple or as an individual. It's really a way to sort of showcase your personality. I think home is something different to every client that I've ever had. So I think that the ultimate goal is to create a space that feels authentic to the client. And that's never really the same thing. So some people really want to have it be a place for entertaining. Some want it to feel like a respite, a place where they can go and get away from the outside world. So the meaning of home is different to every client I've ever had. And so our goal is to just try and figure out what that is and make their home the place that they want to be their authentic self. Homeworthy, it's been so fun spending the afternoon with you and showing you one of my favorite client projects here in Germantown, New York. But I have to get back to work, so we'll see you next time. Bye.
Thanks for watching. Go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content and shopping guides.